And he's on his way out, and no coincidence here, Flair's on his way back in. And Bill Watts, by the way, wasn't the only person affected by this meeting on February 2nd. JR, Jim Ross, he's taken off all WCW programming, and it's decided that he will become a salesman for syndicated television. But unfortunately for JR, in this case, he's tied to Watts thanks to their 19-year relationship, and Watts was his mentor. That's been well documented, and his closest ally in WCW. He leaves the country. JR decides to leave. He's going to use some vacation time. He's going to go party in Aruba. And during that time, he reaches out to Vince McMahon through an old friend of his. That's right, from the Mid-South days, Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard seems to be like a key conduit guy when someone wants to leave to get in touch with Vince. But JR and Vince meet at television tapings in Augusta, Georgia, and in a 3-hour conversation, Arn, they worked out an entire deal that eventually led JR to the announce booth. And later, he would become the head of talent relations, where he assembled an all-star team made of, that helped make WWF a billion-dollar company. And he would first appear in WWF programming at WrestleMania 9. So it's quite interesting. I would say, Arn, it worked out for the best for JR, wouldn't you?
For the overall strength of the wrestling business, what looked like at the time a bad move, with JR, and having him sell what? What was he selling?
He was just selling syndicated television programs.
What a waste of talent.
Yeah.
A guy that brings the emotion to what you're watching on TV. But had he not left, all the other things that happened after that in the wrestling industry were all for the better. So that's one of those what ifs.
That's right.
Thank God that he did leave, and the business was better for it.
It's interesting in life, Arn, isn't it? Sometimes we don't know why things happen to us, but we there's always a reason. But and this is one of those situations for JR where it's like, probably in this situation, my God, what am I going to do? Et cetera, et cetera. But man, how the ships turned the right way for him. He became the voice of wrestling, and not only that, what he did with the talent and his bank account and just to see what he's accomplished. Hall of Famer. Incredible.
Well, here's just a small piece of it. After WCW was bought out, JR's the one that hired me.
There you go.
So, had he not been in that position and someone that was not an Arn Anderson fan, how would the rest of my career went?
That's an amazing point. You never know. That's right.
And I was hired not in a talent capacity. I was hired as a road agent. So I certainly had a 19-year run with the company, and that could have not happened. It had someone else had that spot.
There you go. Wow. Carolina Jackpot wants to know what you thought of Jim Ross leaving the company at this time. When you heard JR was leaving, do you remember kind of what was going through your head? Because, man, we've listened to Jim Ross, the soundtrack here, the last several months, and he was so good at telling stories. What were your thoughts back then when you heard he was leaving?
Well, who would look at that any other way than being a huge loss for the company? I hated it, because, in those days, we were out in the ring performing. We didn't always get to see the show back. There was a lot of weeks that I wouldn't get to see the show. You knew when you were performing what you were doing, but you didn't have the opportunity to hear how the announcers were spicing it up and making it better and all that. And once you went back and watched the show, whether you had it taped or whatever the deal was in those days, you realize, man, does he really add to the excitement of what's going on in the ring? And you fully appreciate him.